Hello my friends, how are you? Sean Ferrick here for Trek Culture. Now, we are going to talk about a subject that is very near and dear to my heart today. Not just Star Trek, but we're talking Star Trek uniforms. Anyone who's had even a passing glance at my social media will know that, yeah, I'm keeping the tailors of Starfleet in business. So I think I'm quite qualified to discuss the topic. Why the Star Trek uniforms make no sense. So, if you have a think of things like The Cage and the original series and the movies, right up until basically Star Trek Nemesis, think about it, we had uniforms that lasted a long time. Look at the Monster Maroons, okay? They come in Wrath of Khan, and frankly, they're in service right up until the 2350s. There's a couple of alterations along the way, but that's a very long-lasting uniform. You know, then we have the TNG Season 1 uniforms. They kick in around the time of the 2350s. We see Beverly and Picard when she's being shown Jack Crusher's body. He dies 2353. Picard's wearing a Season 1 uniform. That lasts all the way until 2366. Then we get the TNG uniform as we know it. We get the DS9 jumpsuit, the Voyager jumpsuit, and that brings us right the way up effectively to Star Trek First Contact, where we get the grey, and then we go up to Nemesis. In about 100 years in Starfleet history, we've got about 4 uniform changes. Okay, grand, not bad, bit easy to stay on top of. Then it becomes Paris Fashion Week, and things begin to change. Around 2380, we have the rise of Star Trek Lower Decks. We have those uniforms which are based on the abandoned uniforms for Star Trek Generations. We go back to a two-tone colored. We have division colors. We've got your red, your blue, your gold. Then there's a white piping across the shoulders, and then we have the black shoulders, right? Now we also have what seems to be an almost unique comm badge, which is just that arrowhead. At the same time, it is shown in Lower Decks that the grey First Contact Nemesis uniforms are still in operation with the comm badge that was introduced in the second season of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. So basically the one that was in use for the bulk of the 2370s. Star Trek has given its own precedent that yes, 2 uniforms can exist at the same time. Look at TNG DS9. So, okay, alright. Not too bad, not too bad. Along comes Star Trek Prodigy. Now, Star Trek Prodigy is set in the year 2383. Now, the Hagemans who created Star Trek Prodigy, they confirmed that the crew of the USS Protostar, they have their own unique, this grey uniform. So, okay, that's all right. Now, we have another comm badge again, which is, oh, okay, all right, we can sort of explain that away. Experimental ship, that's fine, that's grand. However, spoilers for Star Trek Prodigy, spoilers, in 2383, the crew of the USS Dauntless are shown wearing another new uniform with a new type of comm badge. Now, this comm badge was seen in All Good Things and in Endgame and in Voyager's episode Timeless, where we get that shot of Geordi in the future. You know, we have seen this before, but this uniform is a new one. It seems to be inspired somewhat by the Lower Decks uniform, but sort of longer, a bit more similar to the dress uniforms. And again, this is taking place at the same time as, well, not too far in the future of Lower Decks, totally new comm badge, and it's like, oh, all right, okay. Along comes Star Trek Picard. Now, the attack on Mars, that time period is shown with another type of Star Trek uniform, Starfleet uniform, beg your pardon. Now, we've gone back to the colours are up on the shoulders, this time with a black bar running through them. We see it in the flashback with Picard talking to Raffi after the attack on Mars. Now, confusingly, they've gone back to the comm badge of the 2370s. In this same, like maybe, let's say 5-year, maybe 6-year time period, we have the Lower Decks comm badge, we have the Protostar comm badge, we have the Dauntless All Good Things Endgame comm badge, and we have a return of the 2370s comm badge. That's 4, all more or less at the same time. Confused? You should be. Star Trek Picard then brings in their updated uniform. Now, this one is from the 2390s. So we abandoned the black stripe through the shoulders, and what we do now is we see a variation on the All Good Things and Endgame comm badge. This seems to be it's filed down at the top so that it's the arrowhead with a tail as opposed to poking out the top of it. Now, I was fortunate enough to have an interview with Aaron Walker, one of the writers and of course one of the head cheeses in Star Trek Prodigy, and we discussed this confusion of comm badges. Confusion seems to be a good word. What is important to note is that while all of these separate Star Trek shows are, of course, under the one umbrella of CBS, they're all in their own different timelines. Well, not timelines, but they're all in their own different time frames. And, I mean, with some slightly confusing crossovers, there is a possibility, sure, that all of this could be happening. You know, a little bit of time goes by, they do an update, a little bit of time goes by, they do an update. And as I say, the Garricks of the Star Trek universe are working absolutely overtime. Now, if we are to count variations and alternates like All Good Things, like The Visitor, which is the 2420s, we see that version that was introduced in the end of All Good Things. Comm badges back, we see Nog, we see Bashir, we see Jadzia Dax, first problem there, wearing those uniforms. Now, I mean, I personally would love to see those uniforms back. I have loved them since 1994. I continue to love them today. But I think they might be relegated slightly to the land of alternate universe. Now, if you thought that going into the future or even alternate universes was going to clear things up, it sort of doesn't. Because the new controllers of Star Trek seem to just love banging out a new uniform every few minutes. Yeah, I mean, it's dreadful for my pocket, but it does look good. Look at the Kelvin Universe movies. You know, we have the progression from the first one up to Star Trek Beyond, which I flipping love that uniform, I have to say. I think it looks really smart and nice. And then, of course, we've got Star Trek Discovery. We make allowance for the fact that there is a revamped version of the past. So, of course, we've got different uniforms for the TOS crew, which has a spanner thrown in the works by the Prodigy episode Kobayashi, but moving swiftly along. You know, we have those blue uniforms for Discovery, and then, of course, when it shoots into the future, we see more changes to the uniforms, and they can do whatever they want. It's the 32nd century, it's absolutely fine. Except for the episodes Forget-Me-Not and Su'Kal, where you start to see some of the Picard-era uniforms in flashbacks, and then other Starfleet uniforms, which are to be introduced in the coming years, potentially in the coming minutes. The comm badge, you got the Pips returns to the side of the comm badge, which actually, I must say, I do like that. And lest we even begin to discuss the new uniforms that are being shown in Strange New Worlds as well. So it is a very, very messy time when it comes to uniforms in Star Trek. I love it. You know, we've got lists like Secrets of the Uniforms coming out the wazoo. I think poor old Paul's eye just twitched somewhere as I said that. But frankly, it's giving us options, which is quite nice. So, in a way, to summarize, the showrunners of Star Trek love to give you choice, which they have now done, with about 75 new shows a minute, and each one of them having about 750 new costumes. Wait till you see Picard Season 2, we have another change, which is different again from the ones that were introduced in Prodigy, in the last episode, in the Dauntless, and I mean, they all look very nice. Please don't get me wrong. They all look lovely. We've got Pips back on the collars, even though we did have Pips on the chest, and what I'm saying is that if the lovely people at Trek Culture will allow me to expense all of these uniforms, I probably won't get paid for the next year and a half, but I'm going to look good doing it. Thank you very, very much. Thanks for enjoying our video today. If there's any glaring omissions that you think I've made, and let's be fair, by the time I finish recording this video, there's probably been 4 new uniforms announced. Please let me know in the comments. Please remember you can catch us over on Twitter at Trek Culture and at Sean Ferrick for myself. On a serious note, with everything that's going on today, please look after yourself, look after your friends and family. To my friends in the Ukraine, I hope you are safe. I hope you know that we are with you. Жете дово и процветати. Thank you very much.